Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
So without further ado, I'd actually like to introduce our first speaker for the event for opening remarks, and that's Dr. Darren Green from our external research organization. He's our senior director there, and we're very lucky to have him. Darren?
Great. Thank you, Chris. So I'd just like to add my thanks to those of Chris's, to both the local organisers and the team that we've got outside on the desk. For those of you that maybe remember from a year ago, I intended the event in North Carolina, but actually at that time wasn't employed by Microsoft. Enjoyed the event very much, but I thought as an opening, what I should do is give you a little bit more of my background and why I'm now working for Microsoft External Research, and also something that I haven't done, that when people look at me, they often think I have, which for some of you may be a little bit more intriguing. So here's a sort of a quick graphical jump through the last 20 years of my life, which started at Sheffield University, where I did my degree in chemical physics and then my PhD in molecular modeling. That took me to a postdoctoral year at University College Dublin, where I was looking at protein folding and polymer simulation. I then moved to the Parallel Application Center, as it was called. It's now changed its name since I left, to the IT Innovation Center, and yes, that was at Southampton. And you can perhaps begin to guess why I'm now working for external research as a result of that slight connection. Also, there's a little bit of a pattern emerges as we go through here. Typically, people change their name or their logo shortly after I've left. So that's happened at University of Sheffield. It's changed its brand slightly. University College Dublin, IT Innovation Center, as I say, used to be called the Parallel Application Center. From there, I went to work for Smith System Engineering to run some fairly large projects for some defense companies in the UK and for the European Commission, again, in the area of high-performance computing. It changed its name to Detica a year after I left. I then went to work for SGI, again, in high-performance computing, working predominantly for the part of the organization that was previously Cray and is now Cray again. You may remember they had a different logo to that, and they rebranded themselves from SGI to SGI, but they changed the logo slightly. I set up the professional services for SGI in Europe and then span out a small group of the service delivery guys into a software company called Selectica. From there, because Selectica was working a lot on web services, I joined IBM and really was using that combination of web services and high-performance computing to set up IBM's GRID EBO. And EBO stands for Emerging Business Opportunity, which was the investment vehicle that IBM used for, if you like, its startup businesses within the company. That was my first time living in the US. From there, I moved back to the UK and worked for BT on establishing some of its new healthcare business. Now, so those are things that I've been doing. Now, here's something that I haven't done, but a lot of people think I have when they look at me. This is Arnold Vosloo, and he's the crazed Egyptian priest, or at least he plays one, in The Return of the Mummy. And it's actually a little bit scary how often I'm stopped, now I live in the Seattle area, by people that actually think I am this guy. When I said this to my wife, she said, no, don't be stupid. He's really handsome and has a lot of hair. And when I then said, no, it's this guy here, and she said, no, don't be silly. He's nearly completely bald, which just goes to show that love is truly blind. Okay, so now enough of sort of background of me and background certainly for Arnold. I want to talk to you a little bit about why eScience and why Microsoft. But to do that, really, I need to give you a little bit of context as to the nature of Microsoft research. So globally, Microsoft research can boast just shy of about 800 researchers. And each of those researchers could probably get a position in a faculty in a university sort of fairly easily. As some of the world's leading experts in a number of different domains. They're truly global. They're spread around the world. Clearly, there's a fair concentration in Redmond, then San Francisco, California, Cambridge in the UK, Beijing, China, Silicon Valley, California again. Obviously, a fairly nice place to live. Bangalore, India, and then Cambridge again, but this time in Massachusetts, opened just in July earlier this year. So 800 researchers working in a wide variety of topics. And this, just so that you get a feel for it, is Microsoft Research's mission statement. Expand the state of the art in each of the areas in which we do research. Which is essentially saying that those 800 researchers are going to be at the leading edge of whatever their discipline is. To rapidly transfer innovative technologies into Microsoft products. And what this means is that the research that they're doing ideally should be finding its way into Microsoft products, into Microsoft services if possible. So a number of you maybe think, yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to establish IP, grab that IP, and put it into the products as soon as possible. Well, many of you that are already collaborating with us can probably recognize that actually our researchers typically publish first and then ask for forgiveness later. Okay, so there's definitely a strong theme of sort of publication and scientific innovation. And ultimately, for Microsoft Research, the goal is to make sure that Microsoft products have a future and a relevance to what is a changing both business context but research context as well. So how are we set up? Well, we're set up pretty much as a university is. It's a relatively flat organization within research. Very aggressive publication record, typically through peer review. A lot of frequent visits either from Microsoft researchers out into the research community or people visiting some of the labs that I've just listed. Very close ties to university research. And nearly 15% of our research budget is actually spent directly at universities, either as a result of research grants, grants to labs, fellowships, as interns. And a large chunk of that 15%, so if you think of the cost associated with 800 research, well, a large chunk of that sort of 15% of overall research budget actually comes through external research. So the role comes through external research. So our role then is to help project out the goals and ambitions of Microsoft Research into the broader research community. So typically, how do we do that? Well, extensive conference and publication activities, this being just one of a large number. You'll also see we work fairly closely with a number of different funding agencies. So I've listed just a few of them here. So typically, we find that a lot of our investments and the directions that we're going actually underscore what a lot of the major funding agencies around the world are attempting to achieve. So we typically will link up where possible. We also have an extensive visitor and speaker program, and actually the largest PhD internship in the industry. And some of you may already have benefited from this. If you haven't, then please feel free to engage with us. I've got a list of contacts towards the end of my short presentation for people that you could touch base with if you're not already linked into some of these programs. So I mentioned external research, which is the part of the organization that I'm leading, at least from a thematic point of view. So external research under Tony Hayes' guidance has these 5 missions, okay? Or these 5 components to our mission. To undertake the breakthrough research and innovation, not within our team necessarily, but in collaboration through funding and sponsoring major programs at various universities and research institutes. To actually undertake that as part of a worldwide program. So we're not just focused in North America, it's not just North America and Europe. You see components of our strategy that truly have a global nature. To engage with the community, so we recognize that although we have a large number of research within our own organization, actually to maintain relevance to our program and an exciting portfolio, it requires us to be engaging genuinely with the research community in its various forms. We undertake broad dissemination, so we do make press releases of some of our activities. We will generate collateral that describes the work that we do, just as an aid so that people understand some of our ambitions in this space. And also, you may have detected from a number of presentations that you've heard from Microsoft recently, and increasingly from Tony, the notion of interoperability both within Microsoft's technology stack and between Microsoft stack and with other providers, either commercial providers or with open source. So this notion of interoperability and embracing open source is something that Microsoft has perhaps struggled with historically, but is a major part of our agenda in making what Microsoft does relevant to the academic community. Okay, I mentioned the sort of global reach and want to very quickly take you through what external research's really focal areas or themes are for the next year to 18 months. And they're fairly easily summarized in terms of these 4 pillars at the top. So what we call core computer science, these are things that we seek to research specifically because of the enlightenment that we'll get in the computer science domain in itself. So these are things that perhaps are not directly applied to any of these other thematic areas. So what may they be? There may be things like machine learning algorithms. It may be the way that we formulate cloud services. It may be how we handle specifically large data sets or privacy issues. We're also interested in the environment, how the use of our technologies can provide scientific insight into the way that the climate behaves, the way that the oceans are behaving, the way that pollution or the way that carbon dioxide manifests itself. And there are various examples that we've given over the past year or so to show how serious we are in this. Education and scholarly communication. So if you look at Microsoft's technology stack, then you see a lot of tools, a lot of services that are applicable to the scientific research process in itself. So searching, documenting, analyzing, visualizing. If you try to travel through that journey, moving from one Microsoft technology to the next, then we haven't always made it as easy as perhaps we could have done. So some of what our ambition is to improve that process, and I think we've got good evidence of that now. And this really comes under this heading of education and scholarly communications. And then lastly, quite a large part of our portfolio historically, and certainly continuing forward, will be in the area of health and well-being. I'll give you some examples of that shortly. This is underpinned, these 4 thematic areas are underpinned by an activity that Roger Barget leads that we call the ARTS program, or Advanced Research Tools and Services. And this is our way of ensuring that any technology that we develop in one of these themes is done so in such a way that it can be used in some of the others, or even beyond the themes that are listed here. The reason why I show these is that this is a fundamental change from the position that we had round about this time last year when you were at this conference. For those of you that were in North Carolina. So we spent a lot of the summer rationalizing our portfolio and focusing our investments in these 4 themes. So for those of you that are looking to engage more deeply with us on new projects over the next year to 18 months, I'd encourage you strongly to engage with us on topics that I'm going to now list fairly quickly, but under each of these themes. So for core computer science, we're really looking at 4 initiatives. So under each of these themes, we've identified a number of initiatives that we believe are the sort of hotbed of discussion for us, the hotbed of research that we need to be engaged with. First one is data intelligence, so understanding how to do web-scale data challenges. Certainly Microsoft has various parts of its business that are generating enormous amounts of data. How we usefully interrogate that data, how we share that data, how we collaborate with people outside Microsoft on exploiting that data is a real problem for us, as it is for others in the community. So we seek to gain insight into how we do that. The next topic is cloud computing. I'm sure I won't be the first or last person to say cloud computing at this event. We've recently launched a number of services under what we call Windows Azure. How those are then exploited by the research community is something that we'd like to make some headway on. The next initiative recognizes that actually cloud computing is nothing unless there's a client that can interact with the cloud. So what should devices be doing? What should clients be doing? What should the cloud be doing? So we have a research topic, an initiative that's focused on that. Many and multi-core, for those of you that are tracking the advent of many or multi-core systems, you'll probably be recognizing that in 5 to 10 years' time, we're going to have such a density of computing just in the laptops that many of you are using at the moment, that we should theoretically be able to do things that previously have been done on fairly substantial high-performance computing systems. Well, perhaps, but we've got to find a way of programming these things, and it isn't exactly clear how we're going to do that. So again, that's one of our key investment areas. Quickly through the next couple. Earth, energy, and environment. So two initiatives within this. Visualizing and experiencing E3 data. So E3 for us is a shorthand for Earth, energy, and environment. What does this mean? For those of you that have seen Worldwide Telescope, then Worldwide Telescope fits very squarely within this particular initiative, visualizing and experiencing and in that case, astronomical data and information. But the question mark for us is, okay, we've seen some success in doing that for the astronomical community. What other disciplines to do with environmental science could we be applying that to? How would it work? What would be the equivalent data sets? And then accessible data. It sounds a little bit like this, but it takes it in a slightly different direction, which is we recognize a repeated theme within the way that multiple different disciplines are trying to access and query quite large amounts of data, typically in domains where the architecture and building of a sophisticated database is perhaps beyond the means of the native scientists. So what can we do to help them? And Grey Wolf, the work of Jim Gray, and now manifest in the form of Grey Wolf, is one of the vehicles that we've been using and is fitting squarely within this accessible data area. To that point, I just want to make a nod in the direction of Alex Saleh, who's in the audience with us today. And his team's work at Johns Hopkins recently at the supercomputing event, where they won the storage challenge using the Grey Wolf scalable clustered architecture for data-intensive computing. I don't expect you to read through all of this, but this was a good highlight for us in terms of the way that Grey Wolf, the architecture, and overall the approach that Jim Gray pioneered and that we're using as part of our environment initiative is really demonstrating the power that we we know has sort of been latent within some of Microsoft's technologies, and some of the observations that we have here provides almost an order of magnitude better balance than some of the existing systems. So what we'd like to do is make sure that a lot of other Microsoft technologies have the same sort of relevance for science as we've managed to achieve here for Grey Wolf. So thank you, Alex, for helping us demonstrate that. Education and scholarly communications is the next strategic theme. And below here, you'll see actually the same themes, just in reversed order, so scholarly communication and education. The reason why that they're reversed is as much in recognition that actually from the external research point of view, we have a slightly greater focus this year on the scholarly communication piece. So this was my reference to as helping the research process be facilitated through the use of Microsoft's technologies. So software tools for academics on top of Microsoft technologies to facilitate the full life cycle of day-to-day research. For those of you that are aware, we made a series of announcements earlier this year at our faculty summit, and we have Lee Dirks, who's in the front, near the front row here, who, for those of you that are interested in sort of deep semantics, the use of Microsoft technologies such as SharePoint, or Word, or the conference management tool, and the integration of these, then please feel free to engage with Lee. And then lastly, on this particular theme, education. Education is an enormous investment area for Microsoft. So it looks odd that it receives this sort of lower bullet on this particular slide. That's really just where it's positioned within our portfolio. There's a newly integrated team been formed under Anup Gupta, who's the corporate vice president in charge of education. He's set up a team over the past year that's specifically engaging on the education topic, and it's likely that you'll see this area grow for us. Lastly, the healthcare and well-being theme. 3 initiatives for us. Devices, sensors, and mobility. This is really recognizing that the proliferation of electronic devices for the recording of medical information, the use of things like cell phones as a platform for healthcare providers, either recording or delivering healthcare information. We recognize that trend and indeed are now looking at exactly how we use a range of our tools in that setting, using cell phones or using various devices. So that's the first point. Second point, genomics in healthcare. For those of you that are tracking, the cost of having your own genome sequence is really falling at quite an amazing rate. It will only be a few years when we can each afford for maybe $50, $100 to have our entire genome sequence. That's great, but what are you going to do with all that information? Well, there's various tools that we've pioneered that are giving some quite incredible insights into the way that genes between people relate, but also looking at the way that viruses propagate. So some of you may be familiar with David Heckerman's work. I know we've referenced it at other similar events to this. Well, that fits squarely in the genomics in healthcare. And then last of all, modeling living systems. So there's a little bit of strange acronyms for those of you who are maybe not too familiar with Microsoft. This is Microsoft Research at Cambridge. So we have a specific activity that's led out of Stephen Emmett's science research group at Cambridge, and a fairly strong tie-up with a team in Trento, in an institute called COSBY, looking at the long-term healthcare and impact in predictive and preventative medicine. So the last slide that I will show really is this one, so those themes and the initiatives within maybe have sparked some interest, maybe you're already working some of those areas, maybe you're already collaborating with us, which is great. If you're not, and you're not quite sure of who you'd like to talk to, Well, I've listed out the sort of primary contacts here. So core computer science, Stuart Tansley is here from my team. Dan Fay, working on Earth Energy Environmentally, I've already referenced here. Simon Mercer, Roger Barjay, owning this Advanced Research Tools and Services. These two I haven't got time to sort of detail at length the sort of portfolios that they're dealing with. Just very quickly, Tom Healy is helping me build the entire strategy, entire external research strategy with Tony. And then all of these people appear to be, above Michael. And I'm sure Michael O'Day feels like at times we're all standing on his shoulders. Michael is the external research business manager, and he's helping keep all of us in step and all of us together. So there may be times when, some of you that are working with us at negotiating contracts or dealing with payment, typically you'll come across Michael in that capacity, which is fine. This is a great opportunity to talk to Michael. Michael, if you just want to raise your hand, he's in the middle here, keeping an eye on us all. Michael will no doubt be interested to find out a little bit more than just how to send you money or how to deal with your lawyers. It would probably be useful for him to get a little bit of context as to what research you're doing as well. So feel free to engage with any of the external research team for sure, but specifically if you want to engage under some of these headings, then I encourage you to speak to the people that are named here.